Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. In this video, I'm going to continue my practice sessions with the Red Hat Certified Specialist in Container Exam EX188. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who hasn't subscribed to click the subscribe button. And also, if you enjoy the video, make sure you click like. As a reminder, these are my practice sessions in preparation for the exam, so I'll be going over the objectives and trying to describe them as best I can and maybe do some example commands for whatever the objective is asking. It is important to note that these are not tutorials, nor are these videos training materials. I'm trying to make the information as accurate as possible, obviously, because I want to see if I am confident with the objective. But the goal of this video is at the end, I'll determine if I think I know what's going on or if I need to do a bit more review before the exam, which is in just under 2 weeks. But they're not intended to be any type of replacement for whatever training program that you are using. That being said, some of the things I might do to practice some of these objectives you might find useful with you determining your own methods for doing practice. So getting into it, we are still in the Manage Images section of the objectives, and in this video I'll be talking about backing up an image with its layers and metadata versus backup a container state. Or back up an image with its layers and data versus back up a container state. And this one I had to think a little bit because I can think of a couple of commands for saving images, and what kind of threw me for a minute was this idea of container state, because I'm thinking, okay, so if I'm running my VM in KVM and I do a snapshot that captures the memory, that is truly capturing the state of the container. And I think about, containers being basically a container image that is now running. You have that one read-write file system layer that's on the very top that occurs when the container is running. So I'm curious if that piece, the read-write layer, can actually be saved with this. And I'm thinking, as far as the philosophical question that's in this objective is the differences between the two. Basically, one, as I understand it, you have the image and all of its layers and all of its metadata. That comes from the podman save command, or podman image save. And then the other is just the file system of the container at that time. It doesn't have all of the historical layers, or it doesn't have all the information about the historical layers of the image. But we're going to do a couple of things, a couple of little tests, and see what actually gets saved and not. So let's go to our terminal, and we're going to pull down a couple of images. So we'll search first for UBI 8. So we'll grab that one. Podman pull, latest of UBI 8. Also, I want to get an Apache image. All right, so we've pulled down these couple of images, and we're going to create our own image now. It'll just do something simple because I'm not trying to make anything complex. I'm just trying to practice the saving and exporting and all that. So we are going to do container file from UB image. We'll do another little echo and make a test file command out of this. Say test file. And we are going to put that in temp test.txt. And our entry point. What do I want to do as my entry point? I'll just do cat, just like I did in the previous video, and command will be temp test.txt. All right, and let's see. So we'll build this, podman build -t, and we'll just do cat test 1. I think this is what I did in the most recent video. So podman images, and then we have cat test 1. Okay, so the first part of this was saying we want to back up an image with its layers and metadata versus back up a container state. So to capture all the metadata and everything that you would do, we're going to do podman save, which actually would be podman image save. So let's do podman save cat test 1. Now, if I just do this, I believe it's going to error out. Yep, because it's basically trying to bring this out to standard output. So you would typically do -o, and we're going to name a file, and it's going to make a tar archive. There are a couple of other things that can be used with podman save, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. But we'll call it cat test backup.tar. All right, so now let's do podman RMI rather, cat test. Confirm that that's gone, and it is. And so now we'll do podman load. I think I can just feed it the tar file. Or no, I think I have to do -i. Let's double check. Podman load --help, which is very useful on the exam in case you forget, quite frankly. Yeah, so it was -i. And then we'll feed it cat test backup, or cat test _ backup.tar. All right, and I'll bet that blob is probably from the UBI image. Since it said it was skipped. Podman images. And we see our images back, and let's do podman inspect, and we'll look at the config. And we see all this information. We have our entry point, and we have our command. I think there's a command, is it history? Yeah, all right, so let's look at the history for cat test. Curious if some of that is missing, which I'm not quite sure why that would be. I actually haven't used the history command very much, but we see a lot of this. I'm sure is what was done with making of the UBI image, and here are the things that we did, or I did rather, with making this new image. Now, let's make us a container that does this. So we'll do podman. We're not going to have it be deleted, but we're just going to name it test container 1. And the image that we're going to do is not cat test backup. Oh, podman run. Like, why is this not tab completing the way that I want? So podman run image, and then we'll do cat test 1. All right, so did its thing, ps-a, and there we go. We have the container that has exited properly because it did its task of catting the file. Now the other command I think is if I recall right, is podman export. So what I want to do, we're going to take a look at the man page for a moment. So that's containers file system. So we do that against the container rather than the image. So let's see what happens. So podman export, and the name of our container is test container 1. That's probably going to complain. Yep, we have to do the redirection. So we'll do test container .tar. No errors, so that seems like that's good. I'm just curious. We'll do tar tf. Let's see what's in this thing. Okay, so that is full on its entire file system. Huh, interesting. And then let's do tar tf, the when we did the image, just the image. Okay, so that actually would kind of make sense, because we look up all the way through here, user, I wonder if it's going to have run. Maybe not. That was a lot of stuff, which kind of makes sense. Okay, so I know podman load is for stuff done with podman save. So let's do this. We are going to podman PSA. Yeah, we have that. We're going to get rid of our container. Podman RM test container. And do podman import test container.tar, which I think I have to do -i for. No, it's getting that. There's no containers, which I kind of expected that. All right, so we have an image that without any type of tags, and that kind of makes sense because I don't think you're not going to get all of the metadata when you do the Podman export of the container. You do get the metadata if you do Podman save of the image. And I know that's kind of mixing some words there, container and image, because technically a container is just an image that is running. But let's look at Podman inspect, the image ID, JQ. Let's see if there's actually anything in config for it. Okay, so there was nothing in config. All right, so imported from tarball. I'm curious if this image will even run, because you would expect in config you would have entry point command and all that kind of stuff. So let's see what happens. So Podman images. Let's do Podman run. Give it a name, test2, the image ID. Yeah, so no command or entry point from image. So that kind of brings up I'm not 100% sure the point of that. I guess I think we can add entry points with Podman import. Let's take a look at Podman import -- help. Yeah, so we can change cat tar, but change string array. Let's look at the man page for Podman import. That might give us some. Okay, that makes sense. So we could potentially change the endpoint or entry point and then command. All right, so let's try that. So we have Podman images, and we're going to get rid of our Podman RMI 43. We're going to get rid of that image. All right, so Podman import. We're going to change. I think that syntax. Obviously, this is something I don't have memorized. I'll obviously review this some more before the test, not to try to memorize. That's one of the things about Red Hat exams. You want to minimize how much you actually memorize. You need to understand conceptually what's going on. But I would imagine it's wise to have some kind of common things in memory, just to where you don't spend a whole lot of time having to look stuff up, because it is a timed exam. But let's look at that man page one more time. Podman import. Okay, so kind of do it like an environment variable. All right, Podman import, change entry point. We did cat for that. Command, we did temp test txt, I think is what that was, -i, and then doing test container.tar. That was what we had. Oh, we didn't have to do -i for this. I remember that. The -i we had to do for Podman load, but not Podman import. So let's see what happens. Famous last words in IT, right? All right, no errors. Podman images. And let us inspect this image now. Okay, now we have config. And I've probably not going to get exactly what I want out of it. But let's see if we can run a container. Okay, now we get command not found because I've obviously did the syntax not in the way that would give me what I want. Because I would need to do anyway. No, I'm not sure if I can do anyway. I think I might have to figure that out before I depart. But that allows us to set the entry point and command. So I'm trying to think like system administrator, if I was having to deal with this and I'm backing up my images. Obviously the Podman save, which has all the metadata, and we just Podman load that in, that would make sense for truly being portable with your image for being backup. But the container state not coming with with the entry point and such. I guess in your backup scenario, part of your restoration process would be when you do podman import, you're defining that an entry point. I guess that's how you could get back to the exact state. Let's see if I can resolve this issue though. Let me inspect the cat test image. Yeah, so here we had entry point cat and we had command temp test. That's what I expected. And if I cat the container file, that's what we have. So let me go up, see if I did just something weird with the syntax. That seems like it's okay. Maybe I need to surround it in quotation marks. So let's look at podman import one more time. Yeah, I need to do it all in the single quote. That makes sense. All right, so podman images, podman RMI, DC. All right, so podman import, change entry point equals, now we'll do single quote, cat, and change command equals single quote temp test.text, and then do something screw with quotes. No, that looks right. Test container .tar. I'm kind of surprised the test container .tar didn't tab complete. All right, podman images. Let's inspect it. I'll just inspect the config part of. And of course, if I wanted to, I could use podman tag and give this image proper name and all that kind of stuff, but that's not quite the scope of what I'm trying to do here. Okay, that looks more normal. So podman run rmc28. Okay, so that function is normal. I'm not going to use the HTTPD one, I don't think. So I suppose if we wanted to just get the container itself and its file system and such, if you wanted that, maybe that's probably why it's mentioned like that in the container state. You're wanting the exact state of that container. All right, one thing we can try, and we'll use the HTTPD image for this. Let's do podman, has to be a running container. All right, so podman-d IT, we're going to name this web1, and we're going to see if we can do something special with this. Actually, I'm not going to bring it to the background. I want it in the foreground. And we're going to see if we can run bin bash. Okay, good. So we are going to echo. Here is a cat. We'll put that into good old temp test.text. All right, exit that. Okay, so we did something on that writable layer, and now we have exited the container. So what I want to do now is just podman run, and how can I do that? Maybe you have to do podman start web1. All right, so that's running. Now we'll do podman exec web1, and I want to cat temp test.txt. Okay, so that's now running, and the test survived. Now, at this point, if we were to just do podman save for this image, that's probably not going to be there, which that makes sense. So now, I'm curious if we can do an export while the container is running. Let's see what happens. So podman export web1. Actually, I guess I want to do -o web backup.tar and web1. So we can do it while it's running. That's kind of neat. All right, so now what I want to do podman stop web1 and try to do podman import. Of course, that's going to be without an entry point. So let's do change entry point. And this I'm just going to do straight up just cat the temp.test.txt and web backup.tar. Let's take a look at that man page one more time. I wasn't expecting that to error. Oh, that's fine. We'll do what we did before. Podman import change entry point equals. That is, you have the 3 different forms of entry point. That's fine. We'll do it this way. Cat change command equals temp test.txt web backup.tar. All right, Podman images, and there it is. Let's see if we can just run this. Run rm0a, inspect it. So I probably did, and this time I'm really not going to worry about the syntax. I can practice that again a bit later. Oh, I see. I have the single quotes in the wrong place. Okay, but that no, I can't do that. I need to. I always say that I can just gloss over it and not deal with it, but any of you that know me know that I don't like to leave loose ends like that. So let's do it right. Thought I was in VI for a moment. Pressed I to go into insert mode. I guess it's fairly sizable because it has Apache installed on it. All right, so Podman images. I'll just try to run a container. Run rm5d. Okay, so that actually did capture that. Now what I'm curious is, would it capture persistent storage? So I don't think if you do Podman save for just the image, that's not going to be there, because that's the image from which you're running the things, and you're telling the if you had like volume whatever, you're then telling the container to save that. So let's do. Trying to think. Oh, I know what I can do. All right, so let's make this is echo. Here is some more text. We're going to echo that to foo.txt. Okay, we're gonna. This is such a contrived little thing, but I think it'll work with the point of what's happening pretty well. So we're gonna do Podman run name web2 volume, and we're going to do a bind mount to .txt is going to be temp test.txt. Got to do Z for SE Linux. And we are going to use, we're going to use this kind of unnamed image. I think this will do what I want. Yeah, here's some more text. Awesome. So now what I want to do is let's do Podman export web2. Call web2 backup.tar web2. And let's Podman import. We're going to change our entry point again, because it's not going to have an entry point, because we learned that that stuff is not saved. This will be web2 backup.tar. And I've realized that this says copy and config whatever done, that ends up being the image ID. So run rm this image. Okay, so the bind mount that we did with this was not captured, which I think I remember reading that somewhere, was not captured with the export. And obviously it wouldn't be captured with save, because it's just not going, the image at that time is not going to know anything about it. Otherwise would have here some more text, but instead it, well, I guess, well, yeah. Because what we did was tell the image, hey, we're mounting this foo.txt for temp.txt, but what's actually in what would have been saved from the file system in the image would have been the original test.txt. Okay, that makes sense. So looking at the objective, back up an image with its layers and metadata versus back up a container state. I think I'm pretty clear with that. The image with its layers would be your Podman save, which you use Podman load to bring that in. And that would be Podman save image name, versus if you want to get the container state, which is still an image, that would be your Podman export, the actual container name, versus the image from which the container was built, which will get you the entire file system of the image, but you lose layers and metadata. And so if you want to use this image, or I guess you could then, you make a new image container file from this image and then start doing stuff. But if you wanted kind of on the fly, when you re-import the exported container state image, you can do the -- change and set some of those parameters. So I'm fairly confident with this, and also understand that the persistent storage stuff does not come along with exporting the container state. So hopefully you found this video useful if you yourself are trying to practice this. Maybe some of the things I did to validate information would be useful for you to go through the motions and do your own validation. Maybe you find that what I've done is wrong, and if you did, feel free to put that in the comments, because I'm sure anyone watching this would like to see accurate information, even though I have made it clear these are not training videos, but just me recording a practice session as I myself am learning. I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video. Also, as always, want to invite people, if you haven't subscribed yet, to click the subscribe button. And again, if you enjoyed the video, click like. Thank you for your time, and I will see you the next time.